Join me to pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Rob.
Let the clerk to call the roll, please.
Hey, Mr. President. Councilor Shan.
Present.
Councilor Tontar.
Present.
Councilor Vogel.
Present.
Councilor Zede.
Present.
Councilor Devlin.
Here.
Councilor Earls.
Present.
Councilor Eigenman.
Here.
Councilor Junta.
Present.
Councilor Khan.
Present.
Councilor O'Brien.
Here.
Council President Connell.
Present.
All present, Mr. President.
Late file.
There is one late file on the desk, which is order number 19, that is with respect to an easement and the Evergreen project sponsored by Councilor Eigenman.
And if I may add, Councilor O'Brien as a co-sponsor.
O'Brien, co-sponsor.
Present here.
Motion to waive the rules and accept the late file items.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
A young man is going to speak with a popsicle in his mouth, a lollipop.
Thank you for that. I guess the batteries are not low.
Thank you. Agnes, and I'm sorry, Agnes, I can't decipher your last name. I apologize.
Sure, it's Agnes Portalesca.
Agnes Cordeleschi.
Good evening. I apologize. I had to take my children with me, so they're in the hallway. So if they make a ruckus, I'm apologizing for that. Good evening, everybody. I'm here representing Cultural Survival, which is an indigenous rights organization based in Cambridge, Mass. We've been around since 1972, and we've been hosting these big, well, they're not big, but art festivals with multicultural dimension, and we would like to host our Cultural Survival Bazaar on July 21st and 22nd on N Street and Market Square. It will be probably about 30 artists in 10 by 10 tents. My colleague, who was actually she was supposed to be here, but she had an emergency. There'll be no food. We would set up on Saturday morning at 6 a.m. and break down on Sunday. The tents would stay overnight, but everybody would take their merchandise home overnight. And we're anticipating probably about 100 or 200 attendees at a time. It's a free event. So we also have. It's just a nice way to interact with folks from all over the world selling their crafts. And we've been doing these, for over 40 years as a means of education, but also promoting fair trade. And we would also be putting up 2 standard and 1 handicap accessible and 2 sinks porta potties. So the location is in Street and Market Square. And my colleague is in touch with Public Works and the Parks Department.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
For information, it's on our consent agenda. So if we act on the consent agenda, it will be referred to the Committee
Public
on
safety.
Public Safety. Okay, she is the only person who signed up to speak tonight, so we'll move on to the mayor's comment.
Thank you, Mr. President. The mayor is at a Newburyport 5-cent corporators meeting and has not prepared a comment tonight.
Thank you. I'd say just something.
Wait, 7? Easy. Yeah. We're being taped.
Let's move on to the consent agenda.
By definition.
That consists this evening, Mr. President, of the approval of the minutes for the March 12th meeting. There's one transfer number 6, health insurance, $8,550. Same amount to travel and training. That's to go to budget and finance. There are 4 communications. First communication is Communication 22, FY 2018 through 2022 Capital Improvement Program Submission. I should mention you'll also see on your desk a binder submitted by Paul O'Brien earlier today, and that is included with that communication. Communication 23, Cultural Survival Bazaar, we just heard about it. They go to Public Safety. Communication 24, Flag Day Race, 5K, to be held on June 16, 2018. That's to be referred to Public Safety. Communication 25 is the confirmatory appointment of Ben Fischera. That's to be received and filed. Appointments. Appointment number 20, Yvonne McQuilkin, 39 Purchase Street, Council on Aging, until 5/31/2023. And the following reappointment is to be referred to Planning and Development. It's appointment number 25, Donald B. Walters, 15 Smith Street, to the Planning Board until 5/31/2023. And that's the consent agenda this evening.
Motion to approve?
Second. There's a motion, second. Is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Where's Agnes go? Someone tell her that her action is, she's been referred to. And Rob, would you tell her to get in touch with the clerk at some time during next week, and then when she knows when the meeting will be held, that she can clear that. Council.
I'd like to just make a motion to waive the rules, to waive the roll call vote for any removal of items from committee tonight. That's as best as I could word it.
Second.
Since we have a member on the telephone. Only for removal of items from committee. Trying.
That's it.
Second.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
We waive the rules for the purposes of, example, not having to hold roll call and something.
Thank
For
you.
committee items, correct?
Just for removal of items from committee.
Just for committee.
Okay.
There's no way we're doing this.
Public safety. We're doing the mayor's update, and we'll go right to the
Second reading of appointments, appointment number 9, Madeline Nash, 19 Arlington Street, Affordable Housing Trust, until 5/1/2020. Appointment number 10, Judy Timon, 39 Lime Street, same Affordable Housing Trust, until 4/1/2020. Appointment number 11, Michael Doucette, 44 Jefferson Street, to the Community Preservation Act Committee, 3/1/2021. Appointment number 12, Daniel Cohen, 16 Boyd Drive, Community Preservation Act Committee, 2/1/2020. Appointment 14, Marion Levy, 323 Merrimack Street, to the Fruit Street Local Historic District Committee, 2/1/2020. Appointment 15, Ted McGrath, 28 Olive Street, Historic Commission, 3/31/2021. Appointment 18, Ann Dykes, 12 Monroe Street, to the Parks Commission until 4/1/2023. Appointment 19, Ann Legassi, 1 Piper's Quarry, to the Parks Commission until 2/1/2023.
Motion to approve collectively.
Second.
motion to approve collectively. All those, discussion. Hearing none, we'll take a roll call on these.
Roll call on the second reading of appointments. Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tontar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Agaman.
Yes.
Councilor Junta.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor O'Brien.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
How about order?
Orders. Order number 16 reads as follows. City Council of the City hereby names 5 nature trails contained in the Little River Trail System. 5 trails, one of which is already officially recognized, are as follows. 1, Albert G. Deasy II Little River Nature Trail. 2, Gloria Brunhart Bike Pedestrian Trail. 3, Cooper North Pasture Preserve Trail. 4, Marlene Schroeder Nature Trail. 5, Randall J. Millen Nature Trail. They're also as shown on the map attached to the order and marked as trails of Little River headwaters. Submitted Councilor Larry G. Junta.
Motion to refer to committee on general government, please.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there discussion? No discussion? All those in favor of appointing general government, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I thought we had to do roll call.
Thank you.
That was only committee items.
Oh.
And mute button and see if it's on mute or if it's on.
Do a point of order.
Point of order.
Yeah.
Was that motion on committee items or?
Yeah, I think we should be taking roll calls on these. The only one was just for removal from committee.
Right.
I agree.
You actually don't need one on this. Not, on an order like this to go to committee, we don't need a roll call, Mr. President.
Just the committee items.
Coming out, we don't need them either usually, unless we're going to waive the rules.
Yeah, I'm just because somebody's on the phone, that's it.
Yeah, that's good. Oh, you're right, absolutely good point. I mean, the rule is if someone is calling in remote, everything's a roll call.
That's
right?
why I wanted to waive only for removing from committee.
Bring things back to the activity.
Right.
Okay, so we'll back up a half step and take a roll call on the order number 16.
Order number 16, which again is to refer to general government. Councillor Shan.
Yes.
Councillor Tantar.
Yes.
Councillor Vogel.
Yes.
Councillor Zede.
Yes.
Councillor Devlin.
Yes.
Councillor Earls.
Yes.
Councillor Agaman.
Yes.
Councillor Junta.
Yes.
Councillor Khan.
Yes.
Councillor O'Brien.
Yes.
Councillor Connell.
Yes. Next item, order 17.
Order 17 reads as follows. City Council of the City of Newburyport accepts with gratitude a gift of artwork for the North End Rail Trail in the amount of $3,500 created by artist Ryan Kelly, approved by the Parks Commission and donated to the city by the Friends of Newburyport Trees, a 501c3 organization in accordance with Chapter 4453A, submitted Councilor Charles F. Tantar.
Move to refer to Budget and Finance.
Moved and seconded, moving into budget and finance discussion. Hearing none, we'll take a roll call.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tantar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Agaman.
Yes.
Councilor Junta.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor O'Brien.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Order 18.
Order 18 is simply approving the following license contract to Frank DeLucia and Son, Inc., Plastow, New Hampshire. And you'll see on your desk, councilors, everything actually in duplicate. There was an issue with this, the bond was not included, but it is now. Everything should be in order.
Motion to refer to
Public utilities.
Have a motion seconded.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, we'll take a roll call. We'll take this matter to public service.
Order 18, Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tantar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Agaman.
Yes.
Councilor Junta.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor O'Brien.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes. And now we're on to order 19, which is very far.
Order 18 is,
19.
I'm sorry, Order 19 is now jointly submitted by Councilor Agaman and O'Brien, and I need not read the whole thing, but it is with respect to an easement on the Evergreen Commons, and it's with respect to 18.997 acres open space area, and there is an easement agreement attached there too.
Motion to refer to Committee on Planning and Development.
Second.
Motion is to send this to planning and development. Is there discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call.
Order 19, Councilor Shand.
Yes.
Councilor Tantar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Agaman.
Yes.
Councilor Junta.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor O'Brien.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes. Okay, let's move on to ordinances.
Ordinance number 19 is an ordinance to amend an ordinance entitled Administration. It's a second reading. It is essentially adding the following language. City employees shall not ask for information about immigrant status and the performance of daily tasks unless required to do so by federal or state statute, regulation, or court decision. And further adding, city department heads shall use tools at their disposal, including meetings and trainings, to direct their staff to comply with the city's policies described above. A communication shall be issued by city department heads to their staff upon adoption of this ordinance. And I should also mention in paragraph 1, this is section 2-125A, that the words immigration status are added after national origin.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion to approve and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
This is ordinance number 19. Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tontar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
No.
One no. Councilor Devlin.
Present.
One present. Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman.
Yes.
Councilor Junta.
No.
2 noes. Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor O'Brien.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes.
Ordinance passes second reading.
You have another ordinance, sir?
We have ordinance number 12, first time coming in. It's related to section 13-26, data to be purged in a timely fashion. And the following is added thereto. Any personally identifiable information, e.g. license plate data, collected in the course of parking regulation enforcement via any means that does not result in a violation or a warning shall be discarded within 24 hours of collection. Submitted, Councilor Zede.
Motion to refer to general government?
Second.
Motion to send to general government. Is there a discussion? Dr. Eigenman.
I'm just wondering why I wouldn't go to public safety, because it's a traffic regulation.
I'm amenable. I don't have a strong...
Wish to amend your motion?
Yeah, let me take out general government and we can do public safety instead.
And who was the second of that?
I could second the amended motion.
Further discussion? Dr. Tucker.
So I would hope in committee it will be discussed. I mean, this information is extremely useful for the city in terms of determining where people are coming from in terms of parking. We don't need personal information. So I want to make sure that we will be able to hold aggregate information, and without name, without license plate, but aggregate, so how many people come here from Iowa,
Sure.
Idaho, Montana, Hawaii.
I've spent some time working with Richard as the parking clerk when he wears his other hat, and he's spoken with the vendors, and that is the intent. There's no intent to inhibit or prohibit aggregate data from being held, because you're absolutely right. It actually would fill a lot of data gaps that we have much opined on this floor that we're missing. So if we feel we need language to make that expressly clear, we can perhaps take that up in committee.
Thank you.
Other discussion? All those in favor of referring this to...
Roll call.
Which committee are we referring to?
Public safety.
Public safety.
Thank you. Take roll call.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tontar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
That's a yes. Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman.
Yes.
Councilor Junta.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor O'Brien.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes.
To public safety it goes.
There's about 8 of these every meeting. It just goes over. I missed the one that you and he did.
President, we're going to take 4 measures out. The first one, I move to remove transfer number 4.
Second.
The motion is to take that out of committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Yes, this is a motion to approve.
Second.
Seconded. Discussion.
Yes, this is a motion to transfer $6,500 from the Essex North Shore Tech School Fund. Remember, we had allocated expecting 3 students to go there. 2 went, so there's some unexpended funds there. And that's transferred to undertake a feasibility study, engineering study, to determine whether or not a 2nd and 3rd floor could be built over the gym at the high school for the purpose of building labs at the high school. I just want to note that the feasibility study has been undertaken. Members of the Budget and Finance Committee have seen that today. It does indicate that it is feasible to do that from an engineering point of view. So there's a little bit of a problem, all right, that the study was undertaken before we allocated the funds to do that. And we talked about that in committee with the superintendent, with the facilities director in the school system, and with the finance director. We also have a communication from the mayor that all of us received. And I'll just quote a little bit. Typically, within the school budget, funds are moved as needed without notification to, and at times, votes of the FinCom subcommittee of the school committee, without the level of committee review as with the city budget, which is the city council. Steve assumed I was authorizing this NS Tech funding and moved forward on the study. There was no intent here to circumvent the review process. It was a misunderstanding of the process. So I think all parties involved have expressed that it was a misunderstanding of the process and also a miscommunication perhaps between parties, and what at least I'm convinced that there was no intent to work around the city council's oversight. So the committee voted 2-1 in favor of recommending approval.
Before the councilors, well, perhaps I will take council's seat.
Whatever you want, if you want.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm the one dissenting vote, so I do feel the need to kind of explain my position. I'm still, I mean, I'll have more comment during the statement of interest discussion. I'm still not 100% sure what happened. I did receive a copy of the actual feasibility study, and it says that the contractor did their walkthrough on December 19th, so it was well before it even came to the council. So obviously something kind of went awry, and I just didn't feel comfortable submitting it, approving it. I think, you know, heading into something that could be $10 or $12 million, you know, it should be sort of a careful road. And so, you know, it is what it is, and I'll comment more at large on the when we talk about Order 13. Thank you.
Further discussion. Councilor Ireton.
Well, I just have a question. I mean, it may become moot when we get to the other item, but what did the feasibility study say other than yes, you can do it? I mean, is it 10 pages long? Is it a paragraph? I'm just curious.
It's about 6 or 7 pages with pictures.
Yeah, with some nice pictures, and so I can speak to that. This is from memory, which is really scary at this point for me, I have to say. So they did not do any what I would refer to as stress tests. So what they had is engineering studies that they looked at. They went out and examined it. I believe, if I'm correct, they came to the conclusion, I don't know exact terms, but and Steve, you can jump in any time here, but that the support on the current gym was not sufficient to hold the 2 floors. So they said, and they said it would be expensive. There would be longer steel beams and support from holding the 2 upper floors above it, and that's essentially what I got out of the study. I think, as a non-expert in this stuff.
Other comments? Councilor Champlin?
Yeah, I'm the chair of education, so of course I'm in support of a lot of what goes on in the school system, and you know, our gyms certainly, our labs rather, we took the tour and we see where the needs are there. I do have a problem with this. You know, we go back to a walkthrough in December. It's March. I mean, there was a lot of time here to come and come to us and say, hey, we need $6,500. Nobody's certainly going to vote against $6,500. I just, you know, I look at this and it just, I don't know. I guess it's the details inside of me. It bothers me a bit when I look at this and say this was a good idea to see what we could do something, but the paperwork wasn't done properly, and it really wasn't done on time. And you know, I struggle with this because I would $6,500, sure, absolutely. But I kind of look at how this all went down and the more information that you read, and I'm just wish that, you know, we could get it all moving in the right direction. And you know, it's something that I guess I'm just frustrated with it that we, you know, this should have sailed right through as a good idea, and we've spent a lot of time wondering how this all happened. And I guess I'm just saying it does bother me.
Yes, so just to dumb this down, for anybody who might be watching on TV, they were supposed to come to us first and get our approval before they spent the money. They didn't. Some would say that's the only job that we have, is to watch the purse strings. Heard it before, we're about the finances, we're not about operations. So this is the one thing that everybody will agree on that we're supposed to do, and it wasn't done, and that's disappointing to me. And whether it was a those miscommunications shouldn't have happened. And certainly, I am for anything that and $6,500 for the school, that's not a big problem to me. But it is a big problem that the process wasn't followed. That I mean, if there's money available from somebody not going to, you know, North Shore Tech, great, go get the money from there, because that you've already spent it. So I don't want to go back, and you know, we need to make a point that this is not how things are supposed to go. You have to come to us first for the money.
Any further discussion? Councilor Conlon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm also the third person on the Budget and Finance Committee and voted in favor of this. And the reason I did so was, okay, so the study did already happen, and we got the email from the mayor where there was a misunderstanding of funds coming within the school budget line item. And that ended up not being the case, but in the sense of what was the goal of what was going to be accomplished with the study, to me it's made sense. Okay, the study's been done, we should pay for it. Now, one of the things I really do want to emphasize in the Budget and Finance Committee was moving forward. We talked about it. We talked that we were not happy on how this happened. And after that, we came up with some solutions on moving forward. More transparency on long-term goals for the schools, upcoming other types of improvements, capital improvements, planning. I mean, we were really transparent with the school administration, with the city's office, and with the city council budget and finance. And so I feel very comfortable. We approved this, but we have made such really strong strides in improving the process moving forward. So I encourage everyone to support this.
Councilor Tontar and then Councilor.
You know, I don't want to flog this to death, but I just, you know, the Budget and Finance Committee, we spent some time on this in recognition of what other councilors have said. I met with the Chief Administrative Officer, the Finance Director, the Superintendent of Schools, the Director of Facilities, and the Mayor. We had, an hour meeting about this in which people were flogged. And then the Budget and Finance Committee met with us again, with everyone in that group, with the exception of the mayor, to discuss this. I think, again, my sense is that there was no intent to get around what everyone recognizes is the appropriate role and an important role for the council. And I'm not going to deny the school department $6,500 because mistakes were made. So that's why I voted the way I did. I urge you to do the same.
Last term, and I can't remember, I couldn't put my fingers on it, but there was another, I think it was in one of the 10 or 12 procurements requests that we got. Something else was either the money had already been spent or had already been committed. So this is problematic. I couldn't put my fingers on it. I couldn't find it. But I don't want this to happen again. And it's unfortunate that it's happened with the schools, but it's, you know, and mistakes happen. That's fine. But I don't want this to happen again.
Yeah, I think I know what the council large is referring to. It was actually the hiring of a Parks Department employee.
How was it?
Where the employment contract was signed before we'd actually authorized the position. And that was one that I blew a gasket at. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, and actually the president did as well. I think he and I both voted against that in protest. So I wanted to recognize the truth of what the councilor at large is saying. I'm going to vote in favor of this. The $6,500. I'm thinking really of the vendor. Want to get him paid and put this behind us, but it is true that this is not the first time it's happened, and it is distressing, and it shouldn't happen. So I wanted to go on record for that.
Councilor Earl?
No, thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
It's roll call on transfer number 4. Councilor Shan?
Yes.
Councilor Tantar?
Yes.
Councilor Vogel?
Yes.
Councilor Zede?
No.
Councilor Devlin?
No.
Councilor Earls?
Yes.
Councilor Agaman?
Yes.
Councilor Junta?
No.
Councilor Khan?
Yes.
Councilor O'Brien?
No.
Councilor Connell?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Anything else you?
Yes, moving to remove, hold on here. Transfer number 5.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
That's a yes.
I'd like to move to approve.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Let me give you a little history on this. We received a transfer request in March of 2017. It was contained among a number of transfers for $140,000 to repair the elevator in the middle school, right? Of that $140,000, $21,050 was spent to undertake an engineering study of the elevator. And I can't help, when I talk about this, thinking about that commercial that I've seen 1,000 times, where a guy comes in and says, "I'm here to repair the elevator." And the person there says the elevator doesn't need to be repaired. And the new guy says it does. It's Watson. So I think Watson, in this case, the engineering firm, I guess a lot of people haven't seen that commercial.
It's an IBM commercial.
It's an IBM commercial for Watson. You haven't seen that? So I'm the only one here who watches MSNBC. It's on Fox. All right, so the engineers said it recommended it needed more significant work. And so it came back in December of 17 with an additional transfer of $163,710. So if you take the 140, the 163,710, and you subtract the 2105, you get $282,660. All right, then it went out to bid. All right, and it was a two-stage bidding process. One for the piston work, and I think
One for the elevator contract.
elevator, and then one for the general contractor. And the final bid came in at $295,500. And in addition to that, they have a 10% contingency. So it's the sum of both is $325,050, which means we need an additional $42,390 to do the transfer. In committee, we voted 3-0 to recommend approval of the transfer.
Further discussion.
I just want to let my friends from the school department know I'm definitely voting for your elevator. I beg of you, in the future, please, when we go out to bid, let's go out to bid before we approve money. Let's find out how much it's going to cost. and then you absolutely will get your elevator funded. But I think we've dealt with this one 3 or 4 times to get it over the finish line, and it would have been nice just to do it once. Whatever the elevator's needs are at the middle school, we certainly would like to fix it or replace it, whatever's necessary.
I'm also planning to vote for this. I appreciate the levity in a sea of seemingly frustrating things, but yeah, it's just a tough one. I mean, we count on these vendors really to steer us in the right direction and give us proper funding. And in cases like this, it's a sort of a no-brainer. You need to have an elevator for folks who need it. They exist for a reason. But it's not always this easy where you just have the money or you don't have the money and then you have to go out and do something else more drastic. So there are always projects that we may choose to do, and there may be projects that we need to do, and getting the estimating right, if I'm being generous, they were off by a pretty substantial portion if you compare to their original estimate. And the only other thing I want to point out to you is the source of these funds, something we talked about briefly in Budget and Finance, but this is coming from the Bresnahan School Building Project. The money originated when the MSBA apparently ended up being more generous in the end, which is not a bad thing. But it is essentially money that we could use for any lawful purpose, is what the finance director told us, and we are carrying a substantial amount of debt. So my colleague, the at-large counselor, said, well, this could be looked at as a rainy day fund, and there certainly can be some arguments for that. But on the other hand, I don't know many people that would borrow money to have a rainy day fund. So there's some questions about whether we should be, in my mind anyways, whether we should be carrying $800,000 plus just sitting in an account as maybe a rainy day fund or not, when we could use it to maybe pay down debt against the schools, or maybe any one of the million other priorities we have and we fight about. So I just wanted to call that to your attention, and it has come in handy for things like this, but it's also a fairly substantial amount of money. So there is a balance point here. I love having capital stabilization funds and things like that. But I do worry sometimes when I see big numbers like this, the Kelly School money, it adds up and it becomes substantial money. We've asked the finance director to provide us a list of all the kind of stationary accounts. I don't know what a better word is, and he's done that in the past, and he said he would. So we'll be able to see. But when I looked at it last year, there is substantial money in some of these accounts, in aggregate. There are many that have nothing in them, $20 or a few thousand or 20,000, and then there are some that have more. I also asked if we could have the money back that doesn't get used for this, but there's no way to structure the transfer in that way, meaning if the contingency doesn't get used. So if there is, maybe Ethan will come back with another transfer and give it back to us, and we can do something else with it. Thank you.
Councilor, I think we have a technical problem that needs to be resolved.
You're not able to be heard very well, and it is unmuted. It's almost like being covered.
All of us?
No,
Okay.
Plan. Yeah, that's not that bad.
That's just the way he sounds.
Is it number 7? Is it
Number 7.
Is it, was it under?
It's not muted.
Put it on your lapel of your jacket and try it.
The beard.
Clip it to your beard.
It's the beard.
Did you say that?
I'm going to go. I mean, it's
All right.
moved it. If it's not good, I'll come back up. But right now, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Councilor, I next.
I just had a question. So, do we get a warranty? I mean, for all this paying, how long do we think we're going to be able to not have to do this again?
I'm going to defer to Steve on that one. So how long is this thing going to last?
You get a warranty?
Warranty.
Yes. Is it a...
Warranty on the elevator?
Yeah.
Mr. Bergeron, could you approach the microphone, please, so the public can hear?
Sounds like a taillight warranty to me.
Thank you.
You're asking about warranty on the elevator?
Yes, I am.
Okay. A typical construction warranty is 1 year.
Okay.
Just to add a little bit, though, maybe to help, what we're taking out is essentially original to the building. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So to give you some sense of how long it lasted in the first place, what we're taking out was original, which is how long?
It was 72. It was
72.
So it's over 40.
So
40
even though the
plus
warranty is
years.
only one, hopefully an elevator gives us a decent life, if that's your question. I don't know if I helped or hurt, but trying.
Thank you. Any other questions? As long as you're up to Mike, use your shout. No? Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, take a roll call vote.
Roll call on transfer number 5. Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tontar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Z.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earl.
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman.
Yes.
Councilor Junta.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor O'Brien.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes. Okay. Now, order 13.
Communication 16.
Excuse me, we're preempting.
Yeah, I move to remove communication 16.
Second.
Just to put him in his
Moved and
place.
seconded to remove 16. All those in favor? say
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is that
I move to receive and file.
Second.
the motion to receive and file? Discussion, Councilor Tontar.
Yes, this is what we are charged for the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission for our annual fee. It has been in the past, and this year will be paid for out of the mayor's budget. This is not a transfer. This is for informational purposes, so receive and file was appropriate. We recommended receive and file it by 3-0.
Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call on that.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tontar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Z.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earl.
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman.
Yes.
Councilor Junta.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor O'Brien.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes. Are there any other items, Councilor?
Here.
Be a brief recess.
Fine.
We attend to some.
We were doing so well. Milk and eggs. It's my fault. This is brief. This is just fine. We're fine. No.
What did I do? Oh, thank you.
I apologize for the delay. Councilor Tontar, is there anything else that you'd like to bring up?
Yes, I would move to remove order number 13, Newburyport High School Statement of Interest.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of removing from the committee, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I move to receive and file.
Second.
Moved to receive and file. Discussion. Councilor Tontar.
Yeah, we did discuss it at some length along with the feasibility study. I think, let me give a little bit of the chronology on this. As part of the normal planning that the schools do for changing the pedagogy in our school system, the science faculty were asked to examine what their needs were and to come up with a plan as we move forward. There have been tremendous advances in STEM programs in the elementary and middle school level, certain anticipation. I have a pretty dynamic group of young faculty. We did tour Budget and Finance and Education Committee and the council president. We did tour the high school and the labs. It's very impressive. And the situation at the high school is that there are 9 science teachers in physics, chemistry, and biology. There are 4 labs, 3 of them. One of them is currently being used as a classroom. Not when I was in high school, when most of us were in high school, the way the labs were oriented is there'd be a class, each science faculty would have a classroom in the front of the room, and the lab, whether it be chemistry or physics or biology, would be in the back. And that's more of an ideal situation. And the faculty, and so I had proposed moving toward something like that. There is not the space in the high school to do that without an expansion, and that's the expansion that the engineering feasibility study was undertaken to address. Subjectively, from my perspective, it made a lot of sense. I think it does make a lot of sense. I think what happened here is we last year put in for a new roof. The roof is 23 years old. 23 years old, to the Massachusetts School Building Association. We were turned down. I think that they turned down anything below 30 last year. So I think some of the thinking in the school department, if they matched that we were going to get turned down again on the roof if we applied, if we had put that in with an expansion, perhaps, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and they had this really well-done study on the part of the science faculty. So you put the two together, maybe we'd have a better chance of the funding. I think we just, sort of the sense of the Budget and Finance Committee, but also, again, I spoke with the mayor about it, and we spoke with the superintendent, and sense is maybe we got a little bit of ahead of ourselves here because it looks like the cost of doing that will be somewhere around $10 to $12 million. We don't have an exact amount. So the reason we are receiving and filing is we're going to back up. We're not abandoning the idea. We have that engineering feasibility study. The mayor is going to establish a task force that will look at the financial issues, perhaps design issues, and to gauge the sentiment in the community as to whether or not we want to spend that kind of money to improve the school. And so we're not killing this by receiving and file. Our intent is quite the opposite, is to spend a little more time developing it. So committee voted 3-0 to receive and file.
The superintendent is here. Do you want to address this issue? Do you want to approach the microphone? Is there anything you'd like to share with us?
I do think that Councilor Jones got it exactly right. I think we were a little bit ahead of ourselves. We had some things going on simultaneously working with the Newburyport Education Foundation. We had a study group that began in September of this year, and this is their work that has been refined as we've been going along. So we're going to take some more time, so we're going to take a step back, but we're still very interested in expanding our STEM education at the high school and looking to do that long term.
While you're at the microphone, I don't know if this is... Not all members have a chance to see on a regular basis. Is there any questions anyone would like to pose to the superintendent? That's right.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I might have missed it. What's happening to the actual roof? So we're not going to do anything at all? There's no need?
No, we still have, the city council has allocated $20,000 so that we can continue to repair. Again, the state decides every year who will be getting the money so that we do have the money to repair for the next couple of years.
Can I just add to that? Just to add, point of, Steve indicated that patching would be able to get us 2 or 3 more years, which puts us somewhere in the range of making a decision on the labs.
Councilor Z.
I don't want to hold you up there. I'm good. I'm just a couple of comments. First of all, I also wanted to thank the principal and the staff that came to the 2 teachers, Erin and Paul. I mean, it was great. I really enjoyed the tour, and I felt it was a very positive experience, and they're doing some really neat things at this high school. Aquaponics lab was something that was pretty cool to see. And then the other thing I really think was neat was offering of night classes, something that didn't exist when I went to high school. They have some classes in the evening so that kids can flex, and I think that's very cool and very much in style and in sync with what's happening in the professional world with people flexing their time, working from home. I mean, there's some parallels there that I think are excellent. So I thought that was really great, and I spoke with the superintendent or emailed and said maybe that's something we can work on making a more regular thing, maybe annually. We could take a walk and see some of what's happening in the schools, because it's a substantial portion of the city budget, as it should be, and it's an important thing. So that was a very positive thing to come out of this. I am a little bit frustrated that we didn't put in an SOI for the roof. I know that the chances of getting it were maybe 1%, maybe less. but that's still more than zero. And unfortunately, we kind of missed the ability to put one in because the timing expires if you wanted to combine it with the other one. So that's a bit of a bummer. And from what we learned, the roof of the addition, potential addition, is only about 20% of the total roof of the high school. So it'd be sort of different if the addition were going to cover 98% of the roof. Maybe easier to kind of understand it. But in this case, and the reason I mention the roof is I know we're hoping for a couple more years, but I do think we're going to have sort of a day of reckoning on the roof because the MSBA is only interested in 30-year-old roofs. And if ours only gets us 2 or 3 more years, we're still only going to be 25 or 26 years old. It's rare to wish you were older, but in this case, we're going to be kind of in this weird spot where we're not quite old enough to get the MSBA. We may or may not get the labs, and now we've got, and it is leaking. That was a bummer. It leaks on the aquaponics lab. I mean, the stains are on the ceiling. So that's not a great environment. All right, so the next thing is, I think it was instructive on the space considerations in the school. This is something that comes up from time to time as we deliberate, I think, primarily on planning and development, really on zoning is what we talk about, is how much space do we have in the schools, and it's something we've bandied about here many a time. But I didn't walk away feeling like the schools were overflowing with space. So I think that's something we need to keep in mind here as we talk about other issues. I know the superintendent mentioned one of her things she wanted to do was kind of look more closely at enrollment numbers, which would be incredibly helpful to us because we have some big decisions and it seems like they come and they go and we don't have that focus. And so in order to finish on a positive note, I think the best thing to come out of the discussion was the Budget and Finance Committee, 2/3 of which is also the Committee on Education, which works nicely in this regard, talked about having a discussion with the school committee and figuring out how can we get it together on capital funding in the schools, because I got the sense, unfortunately, they were a little bit surprised by this too. And when I first get something like this, my first thought is to go to the school committee. I look at them as experts on the schools, something that I am not. I won't speak for anybody else. So I'm hoping that the chair on education and the education committee members will take that up. And we talked about having them deliberate on some of these things first and then kind of working so we can all work together. It makes perfect sense to me. As I mentioned, as a city councilor, what I've been hearing, and I think many of us have, is that world language has been the top priority for many years now. So we were all taken a little bit aback by this, that we didn't kind of see this coming, and it wasn't in our capital improvement plan and so forth. So I'm very hopeful about that, and I think a good discussion, and I know they have a committee structure and we have a committee structure, but I think in recent years, thanks to the efforts of the current chair and the previous chair, there have been some great strides in improving that communication. So I'm going to look at this as an opportunity to basically further that. I'm not on that committee, but I'd like to be a part of it. And I think we can do good things for the schools in doing so. And we'll support receiving and filing this today. Thank you.
Further discussion, Councilor Ivan.
I want to take advantage because we have key personnel here from the school department. I guess we've been talking about planning. We are all familiar in the city council with the capital improvement program, but I'm still at a loss for how bids are handled. So say, for example, we were to go forward and do the roof. Who is it functionally that decides, who opens the bids for the roof contractors? Who does that? Who picks them?
Who's the right person to answer that? Would that be
Steve. Steve, you can.
Steve?
So if we had to do a roof project, the first thing we would do would be go out for designer services. So we would form a committee and we would advertise for designers to come in and give us their qualifications to do the design work for the project. We would then receive those submissions and rank the designers based on the criteria that we set forth in the request for qualifications. And then, once we have the order that the different designers are ranked in, we would go into negotiations with the highest ranked designer to get them under contract to do the design work. We would then work with that firm to
Thank you.
put together cost estimates for the roof project, the design, the construction documents. They would be put out to bid, and then the bids would be received by us at the school. We would, in that case, it's a fairly good-sized job, so we would likely have a committee of people from the schools, including someone from the design firm that would open the bids and evaluate them and decide who the contract should be awarded to.
Councilor Agaman?
I'm sorry, I don't think I was specific enough. I mean, when you say we, I mean, who specifically? So when you say you go out and you advertise for a design firm and then we open the bids, who's we?
The school department, headed by me,
Yep.
myself, and probably someone else from the superintendent's office.
So two of you.
At least two, if not more.
Okay, and then do you have the final decision?
Well, it's all it's all laid out in the request for qualifications. So, we try to make it as objective as possible so that it's easy to rank the different firms, and you're able to back up that ranking based on what you were asking for in the request for qualifications.
No, I understand, but I mean, in evaluating it, that's your call, right? I mean, you evaluate the bids against the criteria.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion?
I
Councilor
just forgot, it slipped my mind to thank the superintendent and thank Steve for their patience with our questions as well. I don't get the sense this was an easy one for you either, so thank you for your time and your patience.
Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, the motion was to receive and file a statement of interest, order number 13. We'll take a roll call on that.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tantar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Agaman.
Yes.
Councilor Junta.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor O'Brien.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes.
Motion passes. Order 13 is received and filed.
Okay. That's it, right?
That's it.
Okay, Committee on Education. Councilor
Thank you,
Junta.
sir. I have a question for the clerk. So transfer 4 is also in the Committee for Education. We left it in committee, and Budget and Finance has already resolved it. Can we motion to receive and file?
Yes.
Okay. So motion to receive and file transfer 4.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Do
We'd
I
have
need
to take it
remove
out of committee
I'm
first.
sorry, yes. Motion, yes, thank you. Motion to remove transfer 4.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to receive and file transfer 4.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion. Councilor Junta.
So since this was already handled in Budget and Finance, we will just receive and file this. I do have 2 announcements. Moving on.
Why don't we act on this before the
act on that.
announcements?
Thank you.
All right.
Go ahead.
Discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tantar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Z.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Agaman.
Yes.
Councilor Junta.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor O'Brien.
Yes.
And Councilor Connell.
Yes, the motion has been
Received and
received and filed. Councilor Junta, you have something further?
Thank you, sir. So our next meeting will be April 2nd at 5:30 p.m. at the Senior Center. Currently, we have a discussion on gymnasium use and rental within our schools. So if people are interested in that, please come on down, 5:30. If you have anything that you'd like us to talk about, send me an email. We'll put it on the agenda. The second thing that we have is also on April 2nd at 6:30 at the Senior Community Center, prior to, or right after rather, our Committee on Education meeting. There'll be a public hearing on the budget, so there'll be a budget review. So if people are interested in that, come on down. Thank you.
Might I remind the audience, you have a private conversation, please take it out into the hall so as not to distract the members. Thank you. General government. There is nothing to report right now. License and permits?
Nothing to report.
Neighborhood and city services?
We have nothing.
Silence speaks loudly.
Neighborhood and city services?
Nothing come up.
All right. Thank you, Councilor. Planning and Development?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilor Agaman?
Motion to remove Communication 122 Mobility Application Small Cell Utility Petition and Order 008 Mobility Grant Application.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of removing these from the committee, say aye.
The packet? Do you want to waive the rules?
But I just want to receive and file.
I'll second if you want to waive the rules.
If they're not in the packet, we would have to suspend the rules to take these up, even to receive and file them. I think the counselor is correct.
So move.
So Councilor Tantar moves that that we suspend the rules for the consideration of Communication 122 and Order 8.
Second.
All those in favor of receive and filing, I think we better take this with a suspension of the rules, rather. We're going to take this on a roll call.
How about a point of order here? Perhaps
Councilor?
perhaps the counselor from Ward 2 would be comfortable waiting until it goes through the process and gets taken up by public utilities and then receive and file.
Sure. Yeah, it's not a big deal. We can keep it in if you want. I had to explain myself, Mr. President, because it's in public utilities, so it was referred to both. I was just trying to clear our docket, but I don't want to make a constitutional case out of it, so I withdraw the motion.
I withdraw my second.
We withdraw the suspension of the rules?
Sure.
I'll withdraw.
Yes, I withdraw. Okay. No, I refuse.
Retreat.
Is there anything else in planning and development you'd like to bring out, Councilor?
Shall we shoot it down?
Yeah, I just want to report on a few things then. May I, point of order, am I permitted to remove the nomination of Joseph Teixeira? Does that have to be in the packet as well?
I'm going to ask for a ruling from the clerk.
Unfortunately, I would say yes, but certainly waiver or two-thirds waivers, easy enough to do. I know that.
Misunderstood my own rules, okay.
Well, I'll look at the rules if you think it's
I would like
different.
to make, that's the one thing I want to bring out. I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules so we can consider the reappointment of Joseph Teixeira, appointment 13.
Second.
So the motion is to suspend the rules for the purpose of considering appointment 13. Discussion.
Thank you.
Actually, a suspension of the rules does not require discussion or permitted discussion, does it?
We'll just do a quick roll call.
I think it's just go to a roll call. All those in favor of, yes, we'll take a roll call. Suspending the rules, say aye when the clerk calls your name.
For appointment number 13. Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tonto.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Aye.
Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Agaman. Councilor Junta.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor O'Brien.
Yes.
Councilor Canal.
Yes,
So
the
we
rules are
waive the rules.
suspended.
Motion to remove appointment 13.
Second.
Motion to remove. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. It's out.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, we had our first mandatory hearing on an officer under the new rules. We asked questions, Councilor Shan and I, of Joe Teixeira. We feel he's eminently qualified to continue, and we recommended 2-0 with one absence that he be reappointed.
I completely agree. Further discussion. Hearing none, we'll have a roll call on this appointment.
Roll call on appointment 13. Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tontar. Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Agaman. Yes. Councilor Junta.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor O'Brien.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes.
Appointment is approved.
Any further items? Councilor Eigenman.
Just to report, nothing else is coming out, just to report. Going through the agenda in order, ordinance number 17, the ban on use variances. There's an informal agreement where the members of our committee are going to get written notice from the planning office if there are any use variance applications that come in before we change the use tables. So we're essentially going to table this. There will have to be a re-advertisement because the period's going to run under state law. So we will be back with the use variances in the summertime when we're ready with the use tables. Next, you already heard, I'm just trying to get mobility out of our committee. We'll deal with that next time. Ordinance number 1 is a proposed amendment to the zoning map for medical marijuana. We've had 2 joint meetings on that, the one on February 21st and another on March 21st. We decided at our meeting last week at March 21st we were not going to take action because we understood that the council president was going to introduce a marijuana zoning ordinance that would cover everything, both cultivation at one end of the spectrum and retail to adults at the other. And so when that's advertised, we'll take it all up then as a piece. It was clear that in discussing medical marijuana, the fate of retailing was crucial to that discussion. I already spoke about Ordinance 3, that's the table of use regulations. Ordinance 4 is a zoning map amendment, which is a dead letter. We'll receive and file that at a later time. Ordinance 8 is the disposition of the G.W. Brown School. To give an update on that, we had a committee meeting on March 14th. And we had a full discussion. Councilor at Large Zeed was there. We were joined by 2 members of the Affordable Housing Trust. We had the benefit of all the written testimony and verbal testimony we'd taken on February 28th. What we did, and I will release it onto the website, it's just been approved by the other councilors on the committee. We have 6 scenarios that we think fall out of the discussion. Not all of them have equal merit, but all of them had come out through testimony, and so we listed them all. And they range from demolishing the building and selling off the property as it once was in 1922 as 3 single-family lots. That's one end of the spectrum. Another end of the spectrum is to continue to try to accommodate Newburyport Youth Services on site, but in the first floor of the building, which would of course have a significant cost, and then trying to see if we can also fit some number of affordable units, but we have testimony about what is too much. And then in between are scenarios where NYS moves. And we need to gather more information before we can come back to the full council and give you intelligent indication of what the committee thinks. We need to put some numbers to these things. So if we were to move Newburyport Youth Services, do we have public land available for them? We're not sure yet. We need more time. Would we have to acquire land? What would that cost? What would be the square foot cost for a new building for them? So we have more work to do. I do not expect, in working with the Mayor's Office and the Office of Planning and Development, I don't expect this to come out any sooner than another month while we gather information. But again, everything that we have, we're going to put up on the website. The city website has a page devoted to the Brown School, and we'll continue to take testimony. Then finally, there are as far as ordinances, Ordinance 10 and Ordinance 11 came in at our last meeting. One has to do with changing the manner in which lot area is calculated for residential districts, and the other is a map change to expand agricultural districts on former farmland on Low Street. There is a public hearing that will be held next week, April 4th at 7 o'clock here in this chamber. It's a joint meeting. That is the required state law hearing, so that's the big show, jointly with the planning board. And I do expect we'll be able to process that in one meeting and then bring it back to you, the full council, in our next meeting in April. Finally, we already voted on one of the appointments, but there are 2 remaining appointments, both that came in last meeting. David St. Cyr and Robert Uhlig are up for limited reappointment to September 1st to the Newburyport Redevelopment Authority. We have not held our hearing on that yet, and it's not scheduled. There are issues about recent action by the NRA. The mayor has written a letter to the NRA about an attempt to transfer NRA land to certain parties. So that's just all on hold. I'll just register, my own concern as a councilor about that, and we're just not ready to take that up. So my understanding is that if their terms are to expire on March 31st, we will not meet again before their expiration. So we'll be 2 members down on the NRA, and that's my report.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Zede?
I just wanted to reinforce one thing that Councilor Eigen mentioned. The marijuana thing, I think, is a big deal. I really do. I'm giving you early notice that if another thing comes in, I may motion for committee of the whole, so you're all on notice at least 2 weeks in advance about that. But beside being in jest, I mean, look, we've had a public vote on it. We had a result from that vote. Councilor Shand, or the Ward 3 councilor, pardon me, introduced something about medical marijuana overlay district, but I think we've opened another the full can of worms, particularly with retail. And I think because it's coming into focus, people should be aware that, at least as it stands now, my understanding, and somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, we do need to issue at least 2 licenses, because there is a tie-in with the number of liquor licenses, if I have that correct. There's a nexus between the 2. So we're talking about citing these things, which often is one of the most challenging and complex things with anything, whether it's building a public building or doing. So this is obviously very uncharted territory for all of us. And so I wanted to cast a spotlight on it to let people know that, if we proceed, and I know the Ward 4 councilor introduced a moratorium at one point, so we're really trying to figure this out as we go. I'm not sure anybody knows where we're going because we've never been down this path before. So I hope people will pay attention and recognize that, I do think the right thing to do is to try and do things together, whether they come in the same ordinance or 2, but so that we identify clearly for residents where retail potential locations are, so they can understand what the implications are, and if people don't mind, great, then that makes our life easier. But if I'm right, and I'm worried that some people will be concerned about where they might go, and again, we will have an obligation. We can't say no unless we do another referendum, of which maybe there isn't enough time to do. So there's a lot. All I'm saying is there's a lot of issues. We have a lot of stuff going on in this chamber. Residents are paying attention to a lot of things, but this one I think is very important, not just because it's uncharted, but also because we're on somebody else's timeline. The state has a timeline, so we're not really in the driver's seat. We can't just say, okay, let's wait a few more months and figure this out when we can get our attention on it focused heavily. So I think the Planning Development Committee has done a great job of talking this through, and obviously identified some concerns in the business park, for example, and some supporters. So we're in it, and I think now we have to lead and kind of take it to the end. So that's my plea to residents. Please pay attention. We are where we are because of the votes that have been taken. We have to do something, and we will do something. And if you have concerns, you need to be paying attention closely, not at the end, because that'll be too late to do anything.
If there's nothing else from Planning and Development, I'll move on to Public Safety.
Yes, motion to remove communication 17/3/12/2018, 61st Yankee Homecoming.
Second.
The motion is to remove from committee Communication 17. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No.
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
The motion is to receive and file.
Discussion.
Councilor Devlin.
We met on March 22nd, 2018. It was the Ward 5 counselor, myself, and the Ward 3 counselor, and also the Chief Administrative Officer. And we discussed the letter from Yankee Homecoming. I had a very nice discussion with Maureen Ryan, who is this year's chairperson. I'd also spoken to a chairperson from the prior year, and also the prior public safety chairman, just to get an idea of what they did with this, because it wasn't an application, it was a letter. And there was some concern mentioned that they were looking for us to grant their request to use all our streets, so we didn't want to give them a blanket permission. We figured receiving and filing was accurate. Maureen Ryan said each event has to come and get its own permits through us anyway, so they will be coming over the coming months. So.
Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call on this matter.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tontar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Agaman. Yes. Councilor Junta.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor Bryan.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes.
Received and filed.
Anything else out of committee, Councilor?
Yes, motion to remove communication 18, date 3/12/2018.
Second.
And mass challenge.
Moved and seconded to take out of committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. It's out.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve. Councilor Devlin.
Yeah, so Pan Mass Challenge, this is the 7th year they're doing this, so they've done this 6 times previously. Consists of about 100 children riding their bike from Cashman Park up the rail trail. Kelly Mahan is the person who was organizing it this year and last year. Prior to that, it was her sister-in-law, Tara McQuaid. I think she took Mike's last name, but so they never had an issue. They picked 100 participants because that was what they had the year before, and that's the highest they've had. They have all their sign-offs, they have their insurance, the map's in order. They have a police detail at Washington Street so that the kids can cross. They start at, it's a 9 to 12 event, but they start at 10. They do a national anthem and a pledge of allegiance. There's not a lot of noise there. Then they wrap it up from 11 to 12 with snacks and ice cream. There is a DJ. They have promised us the DJ is not loud, and we have warned them about the area residences to keep it down. They said it's a very subdued event, 6 tables. So we recommended approval 2-0.
Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call.
So motion approved, communication 18, Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tantar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Z.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Agaman.
Yes.
Councilor Junta.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor O'Brien.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes.
Approved.
Anything else out of committee, Councilor?
Yes, motion to remove communication 19, 3/12/2018, the Greater Newburyport Ovarian Cancer 5K Run Walk.
Second.
Moved and seconded to take out of committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve and seconded. Is there a discussion?
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
We met again. It was a 2-0 vote to approve, recommend approval. This is run by Stella McCormick. It's their 8th time doing this, so they've had 7 previous events. It's a walk and a run. They have 2 different courses. The only condition we have here is we do need to get a copy of the map for the run, but we did trace out, they did give us a written description, so we traced out the run itself. They have their sign-offs, they have insurance, they've done this before, they haven't had any complaints, and it's for a good cause.
Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call.
Motion approved, communication number 19, Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tantar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Z. Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Earls.
Yes.
Councilor Agaman.
Yes.
Councilor Junta.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor O'Brien.
Yes.
And Councilor Connell.
Yes. Anything else, Councilor?
No, but I will give you an update on, so what I explained that I'm trying to do with these is we'll have one meeting to see if we can, what we can get rid of. I'll try to call them before, as it's been done in the past. If there are no complaints and it's a small enough event or no prior complaints with a good history, we try to move along that meeting. Some of them, like the Green Stride Half Marathons, 2,500 participants, we are going to bring them back in for a second meeting. Same thing with the ordinance. We did hear some testimony from one of the sponsors on the noise ordinance. What I'd like to do with the ordinance is have at least 2 meetings. So the first one is sort of an organizational meeting to see what the committee members want, who they might want to talk to. The noise ordinance, I've asked the chief administrative officer to go and ask the department heads if they have any comment, because they're going to be the ones who have to enforce this. If they have any additions, do they have any issues with it? he can either report back to me that they don't, and then at our next meeting, we'll just move it along. If somebody does want to comment, we've asked the Chief Administrative Officer to have them come to that meeting. We're going to try to meet on April 4th. We'll also try to have that first organizational meeting on the houseboat regulation. And I apologize to both the sponsors on the crosswalks on Rawson Ave. I would have had it last meeting. Because I wasn't here, it kind of slipped through the cracks, but we'll definitely do that. April 4th is when I'm trying to do it, and Larry is still available for that, so we have a quorum. I think Tom's still in Florida. And I think, is everybody, I'll send out an email, make sure everybody else is available. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Public utilities. Councilor Zede?
Just a brief update. Mobility, we're still actively working in that, so I know there was some question about, but planning and development wants to dispense with it, but it is being worked on. Councilor Khan has done some research, which is great, working with the city clerk, and in furtherance of that, waiting as well for our we'll have another committee meeting soon, so we'll see where we're going to go with that. I'll take a little bit of leeway with the president's okay. I'm a member of the Parking Advisory Committee, so for a brief moment, I'll consider parking a public utility just so I can give an update, unless it's the president's will that I give it during good to the order. It's your choice, whatever you prefer.
Right, that's fine.
Something very important out of the Parking Advisory Committee, myself and the Ward 2 councilor are the two city councilors that sit on that committee. You may or may not be aware it was established by order many years ago. The Ward 3 councilor is also good to come and attend and keep us company. So the news out of the Parking Advisory Committee is that the city's consultant, John Burke, has completed his parking study. If you haven't had occasion yet, I know we've studied it now twice in the Parking Advisory Committee, but now it's considered a final draft as of March 20th. There are some substantial recommendations, so I think it was just felt it was timely to let everybody else know. I've tried to write down what he has a recommendation section in there. Obviously, the report is quite lengthy. You can read it for yourself, but he suggests that we raise the resident parking pass from $5 a year to $100 a year. Seniors go from free as they are today, maybe remain free, or maybe go to $10. Increase the employee passes from $100 a year to $200. To run the meters or enforce meters until 8 p.m. Enhance compliance and enforcement, particularly of lot, time limits, say 3 hours in the green lot, as well as on the street, so-called car shuffling to reduce that. And he recommends we use a technology called LPR, license plate reader. So you affix them to vehicles, the vehicles drive around. The computer does the thinking. It can tell how long, as you drive by, it says, okay, that plate's been there for 1 hour and 17 minutes. Maybe that makes my order from earlier make a little bit more sense, so it didn't come out of nowhere. So that's another suggestion. Create a number of what he calls RPP zones, which stands for resident permit parking, possibly with a charge for it. Increased fees during events, and then consider demand pricing once the garage is open. He did not suggest that now, but he suggested demand, meaning like literally respond to demand as it occurs. He also recommended considering doing a split rate. So Green Street, for example, may be more expensive than the East Lot or the West Lot, depending on what's more popular. And then suggested strongly, at least in our meeting, that he didn't feel that resident stickers should work in the garage, but that's a discussion for another day. So anyways, none of these are a proposal yet per se, but they would come to the council. If you're interested in sponsoring one, you can contact our wonderful parking clerk and maybe consider doing so. But I wanted to let you know and residents know that, because this is and businesses especially as well downtown, some substantial changes. So maybe coming, maybe not. But the report is on the city website. I believe it's on the intermodal page, if I have that correctly.
Planning and development.
So you can go and click on it. Residents can click on it and read it as well. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Good of the order. The Rules Committee, by the way, has
nothing to report, but I have a good of the order.
Good of the order, Councilor.
Thank you. I realize that this probably seems trivial in when it consider the number of items that we have before us, including marijuana, et cetera, but has anybody else noticed how much paper we go through? Can we really think about doing something about this? We get this, so not to the counselor from the public safety, but so this is in the packet to be considered. We're not going to consider it tonight. We've already gotten it once. We got it again, and we'll get it again. So times 11, this packet is made up of all of this paper. We get this stuff once. Do we really need to get it again? Can we? I carry another notebook. I have another notebook divided into each committee. I take all the committee items out of this, I put it in my notebook, and I have it so I can go to committee meetings. Unfortunately, I know that I don't have to, I have it with me, but I know it's going to be in here. But if we get into that system, we're going to save a tremendous amount of paper and a tremendous amount of opportunity, of effort in the clerk's office. We have the technology effort as well. We're not, some of us are a little bit Luddites, but I'm a paper person. I like to write notes on here, and perhaps if there was a way I could write notes on the computer, I would be all right. But can we really consider this? Can we really give this some effort so that we can cut down on the amount of paper?
That's all right there. That's all the committee stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Over and over and over and over and over and over again, we get the same thing. Masses.
Single-sided.
Single-sided.
One benefit, I use it again.
That's my good of the order. Perhaps, I mean, I've offered it now. This is probably the second, third, fourth time I've stood up and said this. Can we do something about it? The clerk is very generous to me, gives me, my packet's got holes in it. Every single time I have this amount of paper over and over again with holes in it, but at least nonetheless, I don't have to put holes in it myself.
We save paper on those holes.
We save the papers on the holes. Plus, all the effort.
No.
Thank you. I'm just venting, but can we do something about this, please?
Councillor Eigenmann and then Councillor Zede.
Yeah, well, I think the way to go about it is to put in a proposed order. I mean, if you want to
all right.
put it in an order. But I just want to remind the councilor, we did talk about this at our retreat. The problem is the packet. So, you know, we have to inform the public what we're doing. It's not enough that we have it.
Right.
The public has to have it too. So, you know, we talked about this. If we don't include all of the documents again in each packet, you know, you're going to be sending the public scurrying to try and find the documentation. So just realize it's not just about us. We have to be so voluminous in our documents so that everyone knows what we're doing.
I understand.
Which is why, you know, I got caught on our rule for receive and file, because, you know, I thought, oh, it's just receive and file, but the public doesn't know what it is.
Right.
So
I will structure that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to correct the at-large council. It's times 10, so I'm just proud to use a computer just for discussion's sake at the end of a fun night. But, I mean, I'll tell you this, as a digital user, actually, ironically, having it for you is a waste of paper, but having it in the packet for me as a digital user is awesome, because I just scroll through the packet and I go through it. Just much like you, if we had it in an old packet, in old things, you have to go, okay, you know, the at-large counselor reads the date, which is actually crucial, because I'd have to go and open another file to find where that was originally in the packet. So I do this every time you mention it, so we're just broken records, which is fine. Try a computer. It's really not that bad. You can have a notepad to the side, and once you get used to it, and again, having the whole packet in one, you will find you're not scrambling to open other files. It's very rare when I have to go open something old, and that's why having the unique identifier with the date is so helpful, because I can order the packet. So, I don't know, that's my plug. Because actually, I don't think the system works improperly now. I just think it is a problem with paper. And so, practically, I think there's going to be a lot of paper shuffling in here if you take it out, and then everybody has to keep flipping to, okay, where was I in that last one? But especially as you get into the second year of a term, and now you may be having things that coming back from 6 months ago or 9 months ago, and you've got to go find them. The things that came in last meeting are always seem to be at hand. So, practically speaking, that's my thought.
Thank you.
Further items for the good of the order. Hearing none, I'll accept the motion to adjourn. So moved.
So moved.
Second?
Aye.
Roll call?
I guess so.
Properly.
To adjourn, Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tontar.
No.
No. Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Z.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin. Aye. Councilor Earl. Councilor Eigenmann.
yes.
Thank you. Councilor Junta. Aye. Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor O'Brien.
Yes.
And Councilor Connell.
Yes.
We are adjourned. Thank you, Councilor
Councilor.
O'Brien. We'll see you soon, okay?
You're welcome.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
You take care. Bye.